And a very good evening, everybody. Welcome to the DUANE podcast, episode 19. And of course, we're previewing the big grand final between the Moolumbar Mustangs and the Tweed Coast Raiders this weekend at Cabarita this Saturday afternoon under the twilight sky of the Tweed Shire. I won't say bubble. It's no longer a bubble now, so because we're all allowed to be a part of it. So, but of course, we want to extend our best wishes to Mickey Coleman, who can't be here tonight. And as you may have seen on Saturday, a very heartbreaking. And we're going to talk to Phil Ramage, the guy who broke all the hearts of the of the Lamble Jets. But Mickey, I hopefully you'll be right for next week. So he had to retire hurt this weekend. After this weekend,
of a broken heart.
Yeah, poor fella. I mean, but of course we've got Mitchy Craig, Scoop off the bench in his place. So Mitchy,
the ultimate resi.
Yeah, well, mate, you're in the Southern Comp with Shorey these days. So
yeah, I'm a Southerner.
Yeah, so you wouldn't have been affected too much about what happened on Saturday.
No, we're all good down here down south.
And of course, I'm joined by Crossy after we had a busy weekend on the Gold Coast Comp out at Shugan and Southport. You didn't get sunburn on Sunday, Crossy, at all?
No, mate, I'll tell you what, it was hot. It's probably, I don't know, Nev, you tell me, that's probably the toughest commentary conditions we've had to deal with, about 14 changes before the game.
Yeah, that's right. So in order to do that, like we were about to go an hour, I had to send him down to the sheds because the scorers tent, or the clubhouse is over the other side. So we literally had the reserve graders, and then he's come back on like this little piece of paper, and it's just all like it was my handwriting back from year 1 and year 2 in school. I'm trying to make sense of it, and we're trying to find broken play to write up 11 names because 6 of them literally only got decided within the 5 minutes between games.
Oh wow!
What was the big change? What happened up the coast?
It was back to mate. Poor old Shugan Seahawks had a heap of injuries last week. Couldn't make the finals this week, but their reserve grade could. So they had to play all their guys in Reggie's, and then at the end of reserve grade, about 7 blokes got tapped on the shoulder and said, "Guess what, boys? We need you to play A grade as well." So it was interesting.
I want to know if next year if I can get Shorey in the box for a Mullum game, and then just see if he can get so we could see if we can get him in the tap on the shoulder. What do you reckon? Can we tell you?
Bring the boots.
Bring the boots.
I would love to. I am so fragile.
Yeah. Okay. So you probably would have seen this today, boys. So that's Mickey. He's still busy on the page. Oh, no. I feel sorry for him, mate. I was in the box with him on Saturday, and he's just...
You could hear it in his voice. I felt sorry for him. Yeah. We've all been there, though.
It's like pulling into it. It's like pulling in, being hungry all day for a bucket of KFC, and you're trying to pull in, and then the drive-through cuts off for 60 seconds to go. Like that was that kind of feeling. You've been waiting for it all day. And then and it's closed. But look, I mean, it was that very weekend when 5 years to the day, it nearly, and I think I said in our game, Crossy, where the Broncos lost in the last second. So I'm not. I know that feeling too well. But Mickey, as I said, back next week, mate. You know, you'll be okay. Let's talk about that game though. Moolumbar versus Lamble. That was the prelim final at Stan Secomove on Saturday. And the score was, and I did say this in the call, 20 points was going to be the score to do it, and that's exactly came with some justification. Moolumbar winning 20-18, and they were down 18-8 with about no more than 5 minutes left to go in the game. And
wow.
Yeah, so Riley Lack scoring the winning try from a Cade Hill kick in the corner, as well as Dan Butterini getting over, and Khan Rhodes, and I think Jacob Hine going over for Lamble as well. Very tit for tat, and I said in the call that like Moolumbar again started fast, Crossy, but Lamble just kind of wrestled him out of the game, and it got to the point where I thought like Mullum just threw their playbook, and Lamble playing in the defensive line just thought they can't really hurt him, and I'll tell you what, I put my hand up and say I was wrong.
Yeah, well, mate, you would have heard me say a lot of times this year, Nev, that the Mustangs are probably the one team that can score points really quickly. And you're never dead against you're never home against the Mustangs. And mate, I must admit, and I know Scoop was watching this live stream as well. I was watching it, and mate, when after Butterini scored and then they trailed by 4 with a couple of minutes to go, there's a moment in the game, and we'll be keen to get Phil Ramage's take on it later when we speak to him, but where I think it was Khan Rhodes, he was on the right edge, it was either the 6 or the centre, went for an intercept. I think it was tackle 4 late in the count. And I remember thinking at the time, I think they were thinking, oh, that's good. And they actually kicked the ball away to try to slow the clock, which of course the referee, stopped the clock. But I remember thinking at the time, that's tackle 4. If they just make their tackle there and, sort of defend the kick, it's almost game done. But instead, they've knocked it down. They've given a set of 6 away, and then we all know what happened from there. But the Mustangs, you've said it before, mate, they start well. They've been jumping out to leads. But if they're chasing points, they are super dangerous.
That's right. And it's like I just feel for me too, Oliver Regan, I think, probably like there was times where, like even off one of the, you probably would have seen it in the first 5 minutes. It was a pretty high ball, and he knocks the ball on 10 out. And I think that's sort of set Moolumbar in their to get one of their first tries. I don't think I can't remember if they got set 6 off that, but I think I said in the call too that they kept Oliver Regan quiet in that game, and they just made sure the balls wasn't going to him as much as they were setting up the other end when Cade Hill was getting his kick away. So he was aiming for one corner, and whether he was getting a try or not, but he was trying to make sure that Oliver Regan didn't get the ball to get some yardage in the first couple of plays in the set. But I think that was part of where they were getting at, is you take him out of the game and neutralise the likes of, say, Tyson Donnelly, and as well as Hayden Hanson, and a couple of the Khan Rhodes as well. And is that the sole reason they won the game? No, but I think that was part of it.
I think he give some credit to the coaching and Nathan Jordan and the experience of guys like Phil as well that sort of lead around the field. But not to be for the Jets. We spoke this time last week. I thought they had a sort of an air of destiny about them, the way they were sort of heading towards that GF with Mitch Spackman retiring. But
that's right, yeah.
Not to be. But keen to get the other boys' thoughts as well.
Yeah, Scoop, I was going to say, also Mustangs, they were playing with their third, Josh Campbell had a nasty injury. Had a nasty injury early in the game. He's the second stringer for Joe Besgrove. So they had to go on their third stringer, Aiden Karam, from the Go set. And whilst he was filling the void, but they were still missing some of that leadership there from the Mustangs were.
Yeah, I've seen the Mustangs play over a decade now. This is probably one of the younger teams they've had, but they look like all these young guys that have come in are all fitting their roles pretty well. We spoke about, obviously, Phil in the halves with Cade. That's obviously a strength. But I was really impressed with the way that the defence and they held strong. Obviously, they never really panicked. And to be in that position and win a game like that at home in a final, it doesn't get much better than that. That's
right. And so, but they're going to have to do something that they, I wouldn't say struggled to do, but something that's eluded them for the last, since round 1 of the null and void rounds is trying to beat the Raiders on their patch. And they're not only that, they're playing a Raiders team in form, and they're playing a Raiders team at Cabarita who are playing their first grand final, be it under COVID rules, of course. But it's eluded them. And I just think like they got stage fright probably a couple of weeks ago. But one thing they can be reassured of, whilst I think Shore's gone away, I was going to pitch him the question, but I'll throw it to you, Scoop, is, well, of course, Moolumbar is the only team that I think have beaten the Raiders this year.
Yeah, and Moolumbar, I think these, if my research is correct, these two teams are the only two teams that have won a grand final away from home.
That's right.
Since about 2007. So, that's right. And I saw Moolumbar come. They played Coogin a couple of years ago in a grand final, and Coogin was sort of the red hot side, and Moolumbar just came out and ambushed them. And
that was off the back of Cookie. Yeah, that was of the
But they defended their asses off and stuck in the game and snuck home at the end with a really tough performance. They're just that sort of team. Obviously, you can never write them off. And they're playing so many grand finals, and to have guys like Remy Vanu and that, he's a big game player, and he leads the way in the forwards. And I think that Robbie Shepherd's having a good year. And it just seems to matter who. And I really hope that Besgrove pulls up all right and can play on the weekend because he was
right.
busted last year and didn't last very long in the grand final. So
That's right.
I hope he gets to play in a grand final this Saturday. Fingers crossed for him. So
Of course.
yeah.
So Shorey, so you say that you've kept a bit of an eye on Wollongbar of sorts. So when the grand final against the Raiders, Raiders have pretty much been a consistent side, both on lineup and result scale. Mustangs are bleeding a few players in for this one. So how do you think they'll adapt to the occasion?
I think they're a big, strong, proud club. Like Scoopy saying, they've made it to the big show so many times, and seems to be a really well-run organisation. Grand final contenders last year. Can they go one bigger this year without having to go up their southern compatriots?
Yeah,
I know. So this is a fantastic chance for them, and I reckon they'll rise to the occasion.
Now, Scoop, I'm going to try and pick my brain a bit here. I can go back to as far as 2012 or something, but they've won every grand final. Well, not every grand final, but the only grand finals I think they've dropped are against Ballina. Like they won against Coogin. Didn't they beat Northern United or someone, or Grafton?
That was a really good one in about 2012. I think either Luke Cavell or Nathan Jordan might have kicked the winning penalty goal.
Okay.
In that one.
Yeah, so
that's 2012. That's going back. That was one of the better grand finals from memory.
Yeah,
but
we'll get back to that because that could be a bit of a. I'm just gonna, I'll have to self-admit.
He definitely played. It might have been Cavell that kicked the winning penalty goal.
Okay,
but,
so that
I think it was Cavell.
Yeah, 2012, 27-26, Mooloombah winning. So, and then
that was one of the better grand finals. I reckon that's probably one of the better ones I've seen at home when they played Grafton. Grafton were a real powerhouse back then too. So.
Yep, they were.
Bring on. So anyway, so Mooloombah, I'm just having a look at how many grand finals they've been in. So they were. I said in the beginning of last year's grand final, they've won a swag of minor premierships, but they've only converted 2 of those in the grand finals. That would be 2016 and I believe 2000. That one against Grafton in 2012. So a lot of these other ones have been in a lot of grand finals. So you go back to 2005, they dropped to the Seagulls against the Hornets, 1916, 2006. So then 2011. They won minor premierships all those years, but only normally you win the majority of them. But winning, I guess this time, if they're not being the minor premiers this year, it might work for them. I guess less pressure. I guess
goes to show, doesn't it? Like they're hard to win. It's great to play in a grand final, but it's pretty heartbreaking to lose one. You sometimes think you'd be better off losing the prelim and not losing a grand final. It's pretty heartbreaking. So it does go to show. And
a question I'll throw this to each one of you lads. Do you rather have the week off or do you play for the momentum? I'll go with you first, Mitchie.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of my own personal experience with rugby.
Well, Lennox, it worked. Wait for Lennox this year.
Well, the week off, yeah. I thought in reserve grade, our best game was out the preliminary final. I thought we went into the grand final pretty confident. We just got done. And then playing-wise, it depends what sort of shape your team's in. Obviously, it can be pretty hard for first grade teams. It takes a bit of juice out of you. I'd probably rather the week off, I'd reckon.
Yeah, Crossy.
Yeah, I think so. It is situational, though. I think it depends on the health of your roster at the time. I'm just thinking back now, boys, to 2018 when the Raiders were the minor premiers and had the week off, and then they held the major semi-final at home, and they got beat that day by the Seagulls, and they were pretty ordinary, to be fair. And then they scraped home the next week in the prelim against the Mustangs. And what it actually did, Nev, you'll probably remember, their defence that year was phenomenal, but their attack was pretty average, to be honest, at the back end of the year. And I remember Brent Kitey, he totally changed their attack for the grand final. They moved my good mate Fishy, Jared DeTheory, played halfback. They moved him to centre. They moved Drew Lanston from centre into 5'8", and they actually started playing some expansive footy and changed their shape. And it actually, we all remember, boys, grand final day, that they basically put the perfect game together that day. So in that case, that was better for them to actually have to keep playing. But it is situational. I always think it depends on the health You know?
Yeah.
As long as you don't lose your star fullback or your star halfback in the process, it can probably be a pretty good thing.
Yep.
That's right.
Yes.
Which is what happened with Casino last year. In that prelim final, they lost. Roy Bell got sent off, and then it just took like 15 minutes for their hard work to get undone. Shori, what do you reckon?
Well, I reckon it's gonna. If you're having the week off, it's going to put a lot more pressure on your coaching staff. They're really going to have to make sure that you get extra training sessions in, mental preparation for the week, and you got a bit more time off. And if you're perhaps watching someone else play, that can be fun too, but make you a little bit nervy.
Yeah,
but yeah, it'll rest your bodies. But remember, when you back up games and you go into games sore, once the game starts, those kind of aches and pains go away, and you just hurt again after the game.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty spot on about that, Shori. There was a few of the Raiders boys still hanging around after that reserve grade game, so there was no less than about 6 or 7 of their players hanging around, just being keen observers. And whoever wasn't there were definitely watching on that live stream. So, yeah, I normally think that, well, I guess you could take a bit from column A, column B. I know I'm being on the fence, but I reckon this year, it's better to have the week off because of the late end of the season. So that's my take. I mean,
hot.
Yeah, well, I mean, to have the extra week off because of the heat and stuff. But it wasn't too hot on Saturday. It was Sunday. There was a bit of a bludger with the weather. But anyways, so you'll see all that on Mark Off Media this Saturday. Kickoff is at 4:30. I believe we're streaming all grades. So but me and Crossy will be there once again for another GF. Pump Crossy. Well, I know it's a split comp. It's our third one now, you and me.
Yeah, mate, looking forward to it. I watched a little bit of that 2018 game today, the Raiders and the Seagulls, the grand final, just to get the juices flowing, mate, again, and just to get the hype. And, mate, yeah, there's such great days, grand finals. But I know we're split into Northern and Southern, and it might feel a little bit diminished. But I think in the Northern Conference, these two teams would have been battling it out for a grand final anyway. I know about Ballina, of course, but these are two of the better teams in the whole collective comp. So, yeah, it'll be a cracker.
And that Tweed conference is pretty strong, wasn't it?
That is, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And look, I know, as I said, it's 20. I know that it was I reckon we're going to see completely different. Not necessarily saying Wollongbar's going to win, but I reckon we're going to see a completely different result than what we saw a fortnight ago, that 26-10. But then again, I mean, we'll talk about that more towards the end of the show. So that was so that's just a little bit of a breakdown of the grand final coming up on Saturday. As we approach the Southern Comp, they are now coming into semi-final mode. And I'll be honest, boys, a couple of weeks ago, I was a little bit concerned that it was going to probably just be Ballina against the rest. And whoever they played with Ballina would just, because, I mean, it's not their first rodeo in any grand final when it's a full deck of teams. But I thought it was just whoever's going to be rock up and win. Was going to win by how many, but I'm not so sure now. I think, and I think Saturday's game that just passed against Maris Brothers was probably a bit of a realization for Ballina to not take their foot off the pedal. Ballina, of course, won the minor premiership, but it was 10-all, and I thought Maris because it was a very hot, as I said, Sunday was a very hot, sticky day, and it was they kicked off. I think it was. Well, let's say 3 o'clock, but it would normally have been 2 o'clock if it was played the day before. So, and it was a bludger of a hot day. So, what the Maris brothers did, they relied heavily in their forward pack. They got the Kennedy boys up front, and this was without Josh Patson. I don't know why he didn't play, but they just charged to Ballina. They just found the extra stamina and go for it, and they just smashed it up right up until the last quarter of the game and a couple of minutes towards the end. And so every time Maris would have the ball, Ballina's tackles weren't sticking as well as it because, they'd be drenched in sweat. And Ballina, a lot of their passes weren't sticking as well as they normally did. I think one of Ballina's tries came off an error from Maris. It was just one error, but I think Maris might have just found this blueprint to beat Ballina. Although Ballina still deserves to be favourites. But sure, you watched the game as well. What was your take watching it, the game past Sunday?
Oh, my take, exactly like you've just said. I want it's good to see that someone's really putting the challenge to Ballina, and Maris did that by playing a very a Ballina-esque game. Both sides put on a really huge defensive effort, I thought. The first try wasn't scored till after quarter time, and they were just going hammer and tong up the middle. I thought Ballina looked really dangerous on their left-hand side with big Liam Anderson in the centre.
Yeah.
I reckon he's hard to stop. I think he got a double.
He also got sent off too towards the end.
Yeah, he got a little left hook.
No, no, he got sin bin for that, but no, he got sent off for dissent as well.
Okay, yeah. He connected with his left hook. He didn't put too much hip into it, but it was old school.
Yeah.
It was really good, and I think it's gonna. Watching the following game where Casino put 42 on Ballina, does this give? On Northern, does this give Casino a bit of confidence that they can put some points on?
We'll cover that in the next couple of minutes. I'll get the other. Mitch, you watched the game as well. So, what was your go like watching Maris play? Like we said time and time again, like how do you beat Ballina? And I always say that you don't make Ballina comfortable. And of course, it was hot. It was affecting both teams, so they were affecting them equally. And I'm guessing me and Crossy were up at Tugan, as we said, calling the game up there, which was next to the beach. Now, I know it's about an hour apart, but there wasn't much sea breeze. So basically the heat was just sapping. And so Maris really made it look ugly, I think. And Isaac Lee crashed over for a couple of tries as well. But we were saying offline, should I say, that towards the end there, well, Krause was going chase for the ball towards the end. It was full time, and you're saying that Anthony Coleman took him off his line and it was missed.
Yeah, I think it was Anthony Coleman. There was no malice in it. He just kind of turned his shoulders into him and just sort of, one of those penalties. But Zach Beecham was coming out of fullback. He might have got it, but it was probably a penalty. But that was full time. But They had a field goal attempt before that with Hugh Pratt out of hooker. He's going to be good for him if he keeps playing. He went into the hooking role and Paul O'Neill wore the 6. The two of them actually combined for a try-saving tackle a couple of minutes before that. I think it was Dwayne Anderson was going over in the corner and Paul O'Neill and Hugh Pratt combined and took him out.
Now Hugh Pratt
got them the ball back.
So, Scoop, Hugh Pratt was one of those players that was affected by those border bubbles, and now since it's opened up, he was allowed to come back in. So
they were going to have him all year. But obviously that didn't happen because of that. But he's played under 20s for Manly. They got a fair rap on him. I think his younger brother, he was back in the team too. The only probably concern is like Lockie Perrin and Josh Patson didn't play like you said before. Yeah. And I think from the coverage, what I saw, I think Patson might have been on the sideline in a moon boot. Ooh. So that's probably not looking too good. So
they sort of need him out there if they're going to have a crack.
So if he's in a moon boot last week, I don't know. But obviously, good signs though. They feel like they're catching up a little bit closer each time with Ballina, and they look like they're getting sick of getting beat by Ballina. I think they're starting to realise they're not far off and they can beat them. Yeah, and they've just got to keep getting a little bit better each game, I guess.
Crossy, what's your take with that 10-all draw?
Yeah, I was interested to find out on Sunday, Nev, when you and I were doing that call up at the Gold Coast, that it was 10-all. I watched the first 50 minutes of that game. I must admit, first of all, I thought Maris Brothers scrambled extremely well in that first half. Ballina, when you're watching it, you're thinking, well, here's a try. This must be one of the tries. And it wasn't. They scrambled really, really well. And that's something that's sort of hard to coach. That's all attitude. So obviously they're building something pretty good there. But on the flip side, boys, I must admit, I thought Ballina played pretty sideways. And they almost looked like they were just trying a few things on the weekend, given that they know they are going to finish on top down there. And, I just felt like they were throwing long passes and doing some things, I wouldn't say uncharacteristically, but they weren't playing as direct as what they normally would. So, that was my initial take, Nev.
It's funny you say that, Crossy, because I did see Michael Duane playing a lot out of position too. He was starting from hooker and then they got him. I actually thought he might have been injured. He was not playing from dummy half a lot towards the back end. I think I saw like Logan Iverson and even Reece Richards and even Zach Beecher like filling that the dummy half role. And then then all of a sudden, Michael DUANE pops back in and towards the end. So I don't know if he was having a break or anything like that, but yeah. So as I said, it's going to be an interesting final series down south too, and it's good to see that a couple of these boys who missed out from being able to go south of Barringbar can now finish off the season, and it's pretty much welcome for Morris brothers with the likes of Hugh Pratt, and I think the Kennedy boys were putting on a bit of a class too in the front row, and I think that could be here to stay, especially with that game against Northern United on Saturday.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that goes. So, yeah, good luck to everyone there.
Yeah, okay, so we'll move on to the other game, QE2 Park. It was Casino 40 beating Northern United 12 amongst the try scorers. Thomas McGrady scoring 2, Rocco Partridge scoring a double, Timothy McGrady scoring 1. Noah King kicked off proceedings. He scored the first try. Joe Olive scoring, and Joey Gordon. And he was another bloke that they got back from the board below. Brett Kelly, he scored as well. So I think he played off the bench, Crossy.
Right. So we wondered what was happening with Bretty Kelly there, didn't we? So it was obviously the border bubble.
Border, yeah. Yeah. So
right,
now but is it too little too late for Northern United? They finished third, but see, watching this game, boys, I watched a little bit of it last night. You think 40 points to 12, and you think Casino had it all over, and wasn't the case. It was pretty close. It was 4-0 in the first quarter. I think that's when Noah King scored that good try, and then Northern actually pegged one back, and then it was actually 10-4, and then Northern United were pressing Casino's line after the first half, and I thought if Northern, like they actually, Clarence Kelly set up one, or was about to set up one. They had two. Northern United had 2 tries denied before halftime, and you think if they get at least one of those, and then they score that one where they were pressing up the other end at the start of the second half, I think it could have been enough to break Casino's groove a little bit. And of course, I was saying Casino are starting to slowly get their groove, and that certainly was the case with having all these young players play together for the last 5-6 weeks. But then Casino somehow, I always say it's a mental thing with Northern United. It's like when they couldn't press it up one end, Casino found a way to score up from their end to the other end, and then scored 4 consecutive tries from as many times, sets of 6. So four tries and 4 sets of 6, and then the space of 10 minutes a game, 15 minutes, the game was over. And so Brett Kelly scoring one off the padding. But that's pretty much, it was just all decided in the space of 10 minutes in somewhere between the third and fourth quarter. But I'll tell you what, though, Shorey, because you watched the game, if Casino had another, because they're going to finish in 4th, if they had another regular season game and they got into, say, 3rd and then lined up, say, against Morris Brothers, we were writing them off about 3 or 4 weeks ago. They could still be pressed for a grand final, but though against Ballina, what's your take?
Yeah, they potentially could. What I really like, they play really flamboyant football, just their nice cutout passes and the way they're running different lines and making trick plays work and stuff like that. That's really impressive. Then they put heaps of points on the board, but I think they're probably about in the right spot there at 4th. Just the defensive line, they're not coming up in a line, and it's a bit scattered. So I think if you'd play a team like Ballina or Morris, that flamboyant stuff and the not coming up in a line together might penalise you there. But yes, it will be interesting to see them play like Ballina this weekend, where I think they spread the ball around a little bit more, and like Crossy was saying, Ballina are practicing those long balls and stuff like that. So yeah, to see if they can get under Ballina's skin and get a couple of early points on.
I'll tell you what, if they played like they did against Northern and Ballina did against Morris, we're in for quite a contest. I reckon even Casino might just cause the boil over, like based on that. I mean, I'm not saying like it's going to be 2 completely different games, 2 completely different strategies and stuff. But Scoop, what's your take on Casino? And they're finding a bit of form at the right time, no doubt.
Yeah, I want to give Casino a fair rap. I think obviously the last month they've obviously improved a lot, and I looked at that Northern team. You know, you had Brett Kelly, like we said, Trevor Bolt, he was playing 5'8", Dennis Smith, hooker, Ryan Binge in the front row, They've beaten a team with a fair few decent players there, and obviously I was really impressed with how they played. I'm a big fan of Noah King. I have been for a fair while. Just that speed he has out of centre. He's playing centre now, and that try he got. I've been pretty impressed with him. Obviously, Thomas McGrady, the fullback, he's all class. He got a couple of tries. I'm pretty impressed, and obviously, good to see the younger guys on the wing that have been blooded this year, like the Rocco and Rodder. They got a couple of tries, but and I think they've moved. I think Joe Olive played hooker and Chad Taylor played half. That kind of seemed to work. Chad Taylor got his hands on the ball a bit more.
Yeah.
I think they're doing the pretty good things there at the moment, and obviously Damien Ben back in the front row. He was a few years ago. He was pretty inspirational with those big runs he used to have. He's lost a bit of steam. He's getting a bit older now and hasn't played for a few years, but. I think he told me a couple of years, I think he had 2 back surgeries and it was pretty much curtains. Wow. But he's back playing off the bench, and he was so good 4 or 5 years ago. He was really inspirational. He just used to run like a freight train and take everything his way. But I think Josh Beach is coming through in the front row there, and Nick Morrissey came off the bench. So they've got some players there that are going to have a few good years ahead of them. I'm really happy that they had a good win last weekend.
And Crossy, what's your take with it? Obviously, I said in the last week or two. Hoping some of these boys, of course, some of them are going to go back home to Kyogle when they recommence back in 2021. But Casino, like if they can keep most of these players together, they could be back on the right track for next year. Of course, this year's not the question either, though. Yeah,
mate, absolutely. I remember saying at the start of the year about how young they are, Casino, and even talking to Brad Burney late last year, he was giving me the ages of the guys in their forward pack, and it was like 18, 19, 21, 23, and so that's exciting, and I didn't see that game, boys, but based on what Scoop and what Shorey said, I'm really pleased because I think if Casino's going well, the comp's going well. Yeah,
of course. And as I said, like you're throwing a little bit of leadership there, and you can keep some of these boys together because they've got some, as Mickey was also saying, like in the last couple of weeks, they've got their 18s and reserve grades like firing as well. They're always thereabouts in the juniors. It's just some of them do get picked up to go play in the, like even like on Sunday, you and me, Crossy, we called Solomon Torrens and who was the other Torrens?
And James Torrens.
They were playing for Tugans. So and they came, so I think they were and I said in that call that the Gold Coast Comps game was Northern Rivers lost, obviously, with the borders because a lot of them shifted up to the Gold Coast. And so it's that, but it's pays homage to Casino Cougars. It's but I think even they would like to know to keep some of these boys and have a crack at a title in the next couple of years.
Yeah, let's keep all those boys together and throw in a couple, maybe from somewhere else and just that leadership role that you said, Nev, and they'll be super competitive in 21.
So bring on the semi-finals in the Southern Comp, and of course grand final as well. And speaking of that, we're going to be speaking with the bloke who put Mooloolaba Mustangs at a seat at that grand final table against the Tweed Coast Raiders coming this Saturday. It's Les Burger Field. We're going to speak to he certainly hasn't been he certainly isn't a stranger to grand final himself. Phil Ramage, the halfback for the Mooloolaba Mustangs. So we're going to have a chat with him next. Don't go anywhere. And back on the DUANEO podcast, episode number 19. Of course, previewing the big grand final at Cabarita on Saturday afternoon. And joining me for a chat, a player who had a big hand in that, probably hence why our regular Mickey Coleman's not here today. Phil Ramage, you kicked the winning goal at right on the buzzer. I promise, Mickey, we're not rubbing it in, mate. Nick, come back on. We're not going to put shit on you, but of course, here's the man, Phil Ramage, who's as I said, made it all happen, mate. Cheers for joining us on the podcast tonight, brother.
Sweet, mate. Thanks for having us.
So, the obvious question. This is sort of two questions in one. One. With about 5 minutes left to go, you guys were down by 10. You got Butterini scored the quick try, and then nice little kick from Kay getting into Riley Lack at the end. What were you thinking 5 minutes out if you knew you boys were half a shot, and what were the nerves like? I mean, this is obviously playing in grand finals and being in finals and doing what you need to do to get in the finals is nothing new. But what was it like? Was it the same as every other time, or is it just a new feeling for you?
Well, going to the game on Saturday against Balambul, You know, it was that close. You know, with Butterini scoring with must have been, I think it was under 5. It must have been just under 5 that we scored that try.
Yeah, it could have been.
And yeah, you know, we regrouped, and I looked over at Blamble, and they didn't drop their heads. I think they still thought that they still had the game wrapped up. Because you can straight away tell when you look at the team, their body language drops.
Yeah.
And theirs didn't. That they were not even concerned about the try that we just scored. They thought that for 75 minutes they had the wood over us. And they just purely thought that, that's just a consolation try. They're not going to really worry about it. And then off the kickoff, our young prop, Liam, he just absolutely charged it into the defensive line, got out, made it over outside the 20-metre line, which is like the unwritten rule for a fronty to try and get outside that 20 off the kickoff. He got his nose through, and we kind of got a quick play ball, and then from that it just set the tone for that set.
That's right.
I think on the last we did, Kay done a chip kick, Blamble fumbled it. We dived on the ball. The ref and the touchy come together to see who was getting the ball. We got the ball at that scrum. Then we come over to the left-hand side of my side. And then I think on tackle 4, maybe Khan Rhodes went for an intercept. He knocked the ball on, which then gave us another set of 6. And then within the last 50 seconds, you've seen we took the centre, brought there. What opened it up for our right-hand side, their left-hand side, was our centre took it off the scrum, Caleb Nichols, and he bumped off, I think their 3 in, which was their centre, because their half was spinning 2 in.
Yeah.
But then since he bumped off, their centre chased all the way, Caleb's all the way to the post, which then straight away, they didn't readjust enough. They got everyone real tight around the ruck. And then Cade just did off his instinct, what every good half should do. And he just seen the open space, and you don't worry about the last there. He just went for it. And it's either we get the try and the chance to equal it up, and that's what happened. Yeah.
He was aiming a lot. A lot of his kicks were coming off. He was going for that right corner all game, and I was saying that in the call. It's like, and I said he was trying it all game, and for some reason he probably wasn't executing. He'll self-admit that what he liked, but he got the one that mattered, and it was a peach of delivery in the Riley Lake's chest, and you made a good point too about how because I'll self-admit this in the call. I said that Blamble, along the lines of Blamble, were playing like Moolumbar, like you guys couldn't, you've done your best, you've thrown all you can. So I think they might have even got a little bit complacence in their head. I think that's a word that we hear of lately, especially with COVID and everything. But I think they sort of they were still in the game, but they were only just doing just a bare minimum enough. And I think, and I won't say putting parking the bus, using a soccer term, but I just feel that last, when Butterini scored, I think I just had that gut feeling that when you had repeat sets inside their 20, I've just had the gut feeling that you were going to take it.
Yeah, and it worked out, perfectly for the stage was set, coming down to the last, the last few minutes, the home ground, and then like you said, we got, I think, 2 scrums in the last couple of minutes, which just, you could just feel the momentum just shift to our side, and we got one chance and we took it.
Yeah. Mitchie, anything you want to add?
Yeah, obviously, I was just going to ask Phil about, obviously, we're talking about Cade a bit. He played in that grand final last year against Ballina, and obviously he seems pretty confident. I reckon 12 months later, going into another grand final, how do you think he's going to handle it, Phil? Obviously, he looks like a pretty confident kid.
Yeah, I really like, playing the halves with Cade, and what I see from such a young bloke. He's got, I guess, many years of experience on his shoulders, but only being so young, it's really good to see from a fellow half. And he, I've just this year just maybe helped him with a little bit of guidance, but he's been the driving force for our team, and he's got the flair where, I'm a bit past I've got no more leg speed really, so to speak. And, I'm more of the percentage type of player, where he's more of the flair, which can go for the clutch plays and the chip and chase and the show and go and all that. So I think this, going off last year and being in a losing grand final and getting that experience, it's only going to it's only going to help. And it showed with that instinct play against Blamble that, you know, if there's an opportunity there, he's going to take it.
For sure.
Crosby?
Yeah, it's a great point, and it's a great question, Scoot, because it's one thing I've watched Cade Hill this year. I'm a big fan of him, and he's come along leaps and bounds this year. But I don't want to give the bloke a rap just because he's on with us tonight. But I think to have someone like Phil Ramage there as a steadying influence, as Phil just said, you know, you get sort of to that age, as we've all been there, and you start losing your legs a bit. You really got to sort of focus on other things. And Cade's at that other end of the spectrum, like Phil said. But to have a bloke like Phil there for a young fella like Cade, I think 12 months on, as you allude to, Mitch, that's shown in leaps and bounds in his game development over 12 months. Phil, question for you, mate. How have you enjoyed playing with the young half, and do you see a bit of yourself in him, you know, at a similar age coming through?
I definitely can see when I was younger, the stuff that Cade's doing. There's similarities in the way we play. But the main thing I like about him is he's still got that cool, calm head, and when he does kick into a corner, he's the first one down there chasing, which is a good sign. He's not going to kick the ball and then just sit back and go, "Oh, come boys, my job's done." He's the one down there chasing down and trying to make that first tackle.
And we don't want to sort of spend all night talking about that last minute try, but for anyone who's been in that sort of position, and mate, you have yourself, that you alluded to before, that's an all or nothing play. As you say, if it goes dead, it's game over. To execute that under pressure is enormous. But I'll move forward now to the kick, because mate, you've had plenty of those kicks in your career, which we sort of might talk about. But that one in particular, you know, I know as a goal kicker, one of the first things you do is you're trying to get your heart rate down and just sort of steady the ship. But mate, what's going through your mind there when the buzzer's gone? Again, it's an all or nothing play. You're either kick it and you're in the GF or you're not. What are you thinking? Are you just going to your processes, or is it hard not to start thinking about what may lay ahead if you can put it through the post? Well,
the first thing that I always do, and I've been in that situation. That was my fourth time I've been in that situation. Is you just got to take the situation out of your head. You just got to not think of the what ifs and putting doubt in your mind. If what happens if the wind picks up, and you know, you got to take out all the doubt. Just think of it as a training kick. You know, all the supporters and that giving you a spray and yelling and banging and all that. You know, it might affect some people, but I just think it adds to the focus when I'm kicking. And yeah, the one on the weekend with I had a few of the Blamble boys behind me banging the fence, and
I heard that.
yeah. They got me about 3 weeks ago. The same few players were behind there, and I just missed that one. But yeah, fortunate enough, my left boot, I put it far enough out in front of the sticks and let it bend back.
So
that's what I was going to ask you, mate. Oh yeah, sorry, Nev. I was just going to say, because we only see it from side on. So I wanted to ask you, like, where did it finish, mate? Was it over the dot? Was it inside that left-hand upright? How did it go?
No, it was dead centre. I kicked it about probably a metre outside the left upright and let it swing back, and it went. I didn't even see it go through because I knew probably 3/4 away over. Yeah, I turned my teammates and raised the fists and then got swamped by them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just before you took that kick, Phil, I was wondering why Mickey was playing around with his phone in the comm box. Like, he was probably just sending instructions for all his mates there, just to rattle a few cages, so to speak, on the signage there. But in more serious matters, so you got the big game on Sunday against the Raiders. So this will be your fifth time playing them this year, if we count the first game that was null and void. So we'll say 5 times. They seem to have the record over on their patch at Cabba. And also, too, another thing to mention, a few players missing from last year's grand final, for example. Caleb Howe, the captain's no longer there. I don't think Jack Bishop is there. Right? Where's he, Jack Bishop, these days?
I think he's playing reserve grade.
Okay.
So I think he just wanted to play with his mates.
Oh, sure. the one that we've the $1 million question, which we mentioned a lot on the call, the noticeable absentee is Joe Besgrove. How's he going?
Well, he's going to be very close. He'll, I think, be making the decision probably right up on grand final day, probably Saturday.
Okay.
Probably mid-morning, maybe lunchtime even. Like, we'll be giving him the as long as possible, because we've just lost our other hooker in Josh Campbell.
Josh Campbell, yeah.
Yeah, he fractured the C6 in his neck.
No. Oh dear.
Yeah,
Wow.
Yeah.
So Phil, what's the backup plan there, mate? Like, if Besgrove doesn't get through Saturday morning, or obviously someone else has got to step up and fill the void. Has Eggy got some blokes in mind there, obviously?
Aiden Karam, I
yeah,
think that's the name.
Yeah, we've got Toby McIntosh trained there.
Yeah.
Our winger Liam
Cusack.
Yep. He trained there as well. And then I think the guy that played for us, number 14, off the bench last week.
Okay. So,
yep.
I'm trying to see.
Yeah.
Okay. So, last time you played the Raiders, you had a fast start, 10-0 in the first as many minutes. And then Raiders went and got on with the job. So what would be the game, the blue, well, without revealing too much, of course, because in case some of the we do get a lot of Raiders supporters watching and players and whatnot. But what would be the blueprint, so to speak, again, without really revealing too much, compared to, say, a fortnight ago?
Well, I think they got us 28-10, I think the final score was.
26-10.
26-10. And I think in that game, our completion rate was down to maybe like 65%, and Eggy touched on it every time that through the season with Blamble, Coogin or Tweed Coast, when we did beat them, every game that we've won, our percentage and the completion rate has been up close to around 80%. So our blueprint will be mainly purely on trying to get that stat up there. And then after that, it's, grand final day, there's so much momentum that can change within one big shot, or, 1 40-20, or it's, you could be losing the momentum and then you can get a one front roll that can just turn it, like that.
That's exactly right. And
so the momentum is going to be changing back and forth. It just depends which team can hold on the longest, I reckon.
That's right. And because you look at the last, with the exception of that last game a fortnight ago, there've been very close contests with the Raiders. There was a close one at the Leagues Club when you got up by 2. Then there was the one before that, there was 2 points, and I think it was 8 points in the third game. And so it's still there for anyone's for the taking. So final thoughts. So to all the Mustang supporters that'll be watching regarding game day.
Yeah, well, we've got all 3 grades in, so it's great news for the club. We've got the supporters can get down there early and start off with the 18s and obviously the Reggies into the A grade. But the final word to the Mustang supporters is, anyone that was there last Saturday night, that just proves that we're never going to give in. If we're behind by more than a converted try and 8, 10, 11 points, within the last few minutes, we're still going to be throwing everything at them. So. It's going to be a great game this weekend, and I hope we can fill the Tweed Coast ground out.
Yeah, well, of course.
Hey, Filthy, what number grand final will this be for you, mate?
Or this will be. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13.
Crossy.
Yeah, because I don't think the boys realise the Phil Ramage story. Yeah,
we'll 12. This will be number 13 in senior footy.
Hey, Crossy.
Yeah, right.
Hey, Crossy.
Yep.
What we'll do is we'll get Phil back on in the off season. We'll have me, and we'll ask for we'll get it. We'll get some of these stories out because I had a quick look at your resume today, Phil. And that's worthy of a podcast on its own. We should make that happen.
100%.
Yeah, right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, cool. We'll see what we can do over the off season. But Phil, best of luck on Saturday. Me and Crossy are looking forward to being on the mic, calling this grand final on Saturday. No doubt you boys will be up for it and you'll do the business, and hopefully another grandstand finish like we saw last Saturday.
Yeah, let's hope so. Cheers, boys. Thanks for having us.
No worries.
Good luck,
All the
mate.
best, mate. Good luck.
Cheers.
Okay, so that was Phil Ramage from the Moolumbar Mustangs. He's got a big game ahead of him this coming Saturday for the grand final. So coming up next will be our predictions for the week ahead, of course, in the grand final and as well in the Southern Conference. Don't go anywhere. All right, so let's review the big weekend that's coming up ahead. Of course, we got the grand final out at Lesburger Field. So as I said in the rugby grand final between Wollongbar and Lennox, that while socially distanced, whilst it's going to be 500 crowd cap, the noise is going to be as loud as ever. I can rest assured that. And it was the case then. It will certainly be the case that the Hillbillies will not give an inch. They'll have their new green shirts, as Dan Ross iterated last week. So it's going to be a peach of a day. I'm looking forward to it. Me and Crossy, of course, will be calling that on Mark-Off Media this coming Saturday. So, all right, let's get the juicy one out of the way, boys. Who wins? Scoop, we'll go you first.
Yeah, I think I'll go the Raiders. I tipped them most of this year. Obviously, I thought they'd be, even if we didn't have the split comp, I thought they'd be sort of thereabouts again this year with Little Robinson back in there at halfback and a few other things. So I've seen Lyndon McGrady play fullback a couple of games now. Really impressed with him. Yeah, I think at home in a grand final, like with that crowd support they're going to have, I think they'll be hard to beat. And they've almost got like the NRRRL blueprint with their outside backs. They've got like the big outside backs, like the centres and the wingers, like Jack O'Brien. They get the sets going. They run like front rowers almost. And but it's not going to be easy. I think it'll be harder than the major semi. But I might tip the Raiders by about 4.
Okay, Shorey.
I really want to tip the Mustangs. I reckon if the Mustangs were at home, I'd be tipping them. I still will tip them for the hell of it. Yeah.
So hang on, you want to tip them, but you can't.
But I don't.
How does that work?
Well, I've realised there's not too much at stake here, so it doesn't really matter if I lose. So I'll tip them. So I may look good when they do win, but they're going to make up for. They were in the grand final last year. They didn't quite get there. They would have learned a lot from playing them earlier in the year, and maybe they can. Maybe with a smaller crowd, you say it's not going to make a difference, but there is a difference between 5,000 and 500. So the home ground advantage might not have as much of an advantage. And like Crossy said, when you're playing a grand final, anything can happen. So
okay,
who knows?
Crossy, you'll be there ringside with me on Saturday. What's your thoughts, brother?
My thoughts at the moment, I'm just thinking about last year's grand final with the Mustangs and Joe Besgrove. I went and watched the Mustangs warm up, and we know he was carrying that shoulder. It's going to be a similar case this year with that hamstring of his, isn't it? Mate, he must have sore shoulders, because I think if he can't get through, I don't give him a massive chance. I just think the Raiders are primed, like Scoop was saying before. But I think the Mustangs' best hope is if they can jump out to an early lead like they did in the semi-final and just make the Raiders a little bit nervous. I just feel like the Raiders might have too much on the day with all the boys that Scoop just mentioned before. I just can't see anything but a Raiders victory, boys, on Saturday.
And so it's going to be four punters, 4 Raiders, 4 punters, 4 Raiders. So because I've said in a lot of games where
I'm Mustangs.
Oh, that's right. You are too. Oh well.
Yep.
I'm just taking note of that shirt of yours, mate. So you look like you've been on vacation for a little bit too long, but you'll be back to work before too long, no doubt. But
it's a good shirt, Shorey.
Thank you.
They're about to sell you a used car by the looks of it, and that's gonna, and you'll be making the complaint 24 hours later. That's gone as shirt. Okay, so all right, so I'm gonna say Raiders because I've said in a lot of games where a lot of teams look like if there was a boxing match and you score it on points until the very end, we'd see a vast majority of these games go the other way. Instead, like some of these games have been won by glimpses. Like Casino, for example, that was a vastly even game. And it was only like 10, 15 minutes where they scored those 4 tries. And it was like when Blamble beat Coogin. Like they won it all in one quarter to get into the prelim final. But with that, I reckon it's going to be different. I reckon whoever has the majority of this game will win it, and they'll win it well. And it's, well, yeah, I think if Joe Besgrove plays, the other thing you got to question too, Crotchy, is his conditioning as well.
Yeah.
And like Hammy's a dodgy thing to go even at like when it's winter, when it's summertime, like in October, and you haven't had much game time to get it right. Like Phil said that he's given himself the last minute. I reckon he might. I'm going to make a prediction. I reckon he makes a cameo off the bench, and he might play a bit of a Cooper Cronk role. That's the
problem is there, Nev. Yeah, it's just thinking like my hamstrings are one of the things that they're near impossible to play with. And you look at the 2 hookers. Dan Willoughby's probably the best hooker in the comp, in my opinion. Him and Besgrove probably level pegging, but they're 2 very different players. Besgrove's game's built around his running game, and with a hamstring, it's hard to nurse yourself through anyway. We've seen him try to carry the shoulder. I don't want to sound negative because he's a great player, Besgrove, and he's important to him. I just can't see how he plays and gets through.
But the other thing you've got to be wary of, and I'm putting this in the Mustangs column here, is remember 2 years ago, Crossy, when like the Raiders, they lost that heartbreaker to Ballina on their own patch, and then they came back, they played the Mustangs, and they won a close one there, and that just gave them a bit of a spark to spoil the party for the Raiders. And the Mustangs will love nothing more than to spoil a party, and the Raiders on their own patch. And but yeah, you're right. I think Raiders have just been too consistent. They haven't had they're probably the only team all year that have had not only the most consistent team, but they've started the year losing Guy Lanston, and they've lost a few other boys, and they've worked their way up. When it happened the other way, they had their best team, and they were in a lot of positions. It's like they lost a lot of players where a lot of teams are at the moment. So I think they've been that one team that have just they've got the right groove. They've had the week off during this warmer period and this late end of the season, and I just think Dan Willoughby Dan Willoughby, Dan Ross, Kalani Hensby, they're going to be played up the middle like I've seen them in the last fortnight, and then they're going to patch it off to Lyndon McGrady and Drew Lanston. And I just think Wollongbar, whilst they've done well to pull it out of the fire, I just think I think the Raiders by about 8 points, which is pretty much the benchmark. Mustangs will have their moments. They might even win the first half, but I think Raiders are the most gritty, and when it's on their patch, that's going to get them home. But you're right, Shori. If that was in Stan second, we might be having a different conversation.
Jerry, is there any hope of the winner of gold and green comps to have it hit out?
Wouldn't that be great? Now that's actually doable. Wouldn't that be like you play it over 2 games or something? Like to finish off October. It won't happen now though. But we
play Christmas Eve.
Christmas Eve. There you go.
I think the time it's all over. Let's
let's get the season out of the way. Like we've done well to get where we were. Like it was looking pretty shaky to even get to a competition. We're going to obviously review the Southern Grand Final next week. We're also looking to review or preview the Gold Coast Grand Final as well. That's been played at Seabus. So and then we got that, and then we'll do a bit of a review at the end of that and just see, where we're at, because, boys, as I thought, we couldn't wait to get back out there, and now it's like we play week to week. We've done well to get where we are, but yeah, it's almost ready to, put the cue in the rack and think about next year.
Indeed.
Yeah, but there's still 2 other, of course, the semi-finals. So Ballina and Casino this is on Sunday, and that will be, I think, at 3:00 at Kingston Swift Park. Crossy, who wins? Ballina.
Yeah, mate, Ballina win. I just see what they were doing on the weekend was they were treading water on Sunday against Maris Brothers. No disrespect to Brothers, but I just felt like they were just trialling a few things, treading water for this week, and I expect them to kick into gear. And Casino will be brave because they always are. but Ballon will be too good.
Scoot.
Yeah, same deal. I didn't want to be not to be too critical on Ballina because from the start of the year to what their 13 or 17 is now, it's nearly completely different. They've had to bring guys, and they've done a good job bringing guys in like Logan Iverson and Geordie Slide that can just get the job done, and you can put guys anywhere. You know, Zach's playing fullback. He's normally more of a hooker or a centre. So the guys they got there are doing the job, and obviously Luke Douglas is doing a pretty good job there by the look of it. And obviously we talked about Cassano before; they were good. But I don't think they'll win this one. But hopefully they turn up and give it a good showing because they've got the potential. So if they can rattle them early and maybe try and get some points early, but Ballina at home is always tough.
And Shori?
Yeah, I think Ballina are going to walk away with it, but I want to see Casino. I think it's going to be defensively for Casino. I don't think they're that in sync in their defence, but they can razzle and dazzle a little bit, put some points on, and make it an interesting game.
Yeah, and I'm going to say Ballina, but I reckon it's going to be high scoring for both teams. I reckon Casino are capable. I don't think it's going to be that obviously the 60-0 flogging or even the 30-10 kind of game. I think Ballina, I think really all it comes down to, if you go by the last 7 days, I reckon it's just the occasion. Like Ballina's at home, they've been in this position, more times than they want to care to admit, and which is. But Casino, they've got the young boys there. They'll be better for the experience, but I just think Ballina, they'll find a way somehow. But Casino will have their moments. So I'm going to say Ballina by about, boys, I'm going to say somewhere about 12-14, that sort of region. I think Ballina won't have it all their own way. I think it's Matt Ballina might score somewhere in the high 20s, 28, and Casino about 14. They'll get 14, that sort of scoreline. Somewhere in the teens for Casino, high 20s, maybe high 20s for Ballina, mids for Casino. And so then we've got the Lismore Derby on Saturday at Crozier. Marist are hosting. That will be on at 4:30 on Saturday. So, boys, I can't really see anything other than Marist winning this one. I think just the way they played last week without Josh Patterson against the chip leaders in Ballina, and I think Northern United what eludes them is if they put an 80-minute performance here, Northern United, as I said, and I still believe this, even now with Brett Kelly back, I still believe Northern United are still capable of winning a competition such as this, but they can't, we haven't seen them put an 80-minute performance, or the closest we've probably seen was against, you go back to when they played Coogin when they were allowed up that way, and then that game we and I did show against Mullum, though Mullum were, pretty much on one leg. And some of the players literally they were down 14 men. But I just see Northern in patches, but Marist going to be too good. What do you think, Sherry? Yeah,
I think especially for Marist, they know that they're a red hot shot at getting into that grand final, and they know who they're going to be playing in that grand final, so they're going to have to.
Well, they don't because they play first. All due respect, Ballina and Casino don't play till the Sunday, and we don't want to assume that Ballina is just going to walk. But
that's what they'll be perhaps projecting. That's what I'm predicting, and they're going to. I think if I was them, I'd want to be going into this game, preparing myself mentally for a grand final, and to do that, they're going to have to really step up and put on a good performance to give them confidence going into it. So I think just based on that. They're going to have to put on a really good clinic here.
Yeah, it's good.
I'd be aiming to keep Northern to 0.
Yeah. Sorry, it's good.
Yeah, weirdly enough, Northern played, like you said before, Northern played all their best footy at the start of the year, and they looked pretty strong in the first couple of rounds. That win they had over Coogin and a couple of other performances, and they haven't really had too bad of injury-wise since. And so, but they've sort of gone down, and Brothers are they're on the ascendancy. They've gotten better as the season has gone on, but. With guys like Trevor Bolt, Clarence Kelly, they've probably got 5 or 6 sort of genuine game breakers. Yeah. And if Brett turns up and has a real influence on this game, then anything could happen. But I think just the way Civvy seems to have Marist Brothers prime, I think they'll be wanting another crack at a big game. So, especially with Hugh Pratt there now as well, if he's there again, I think they'll be hard to beat. I think Brothers get this one.
Yeah, and sorry about that, Scoop. Is it one thing I noticed too is Roy Bell, I don't think was playing. He wasn't playing last.
Don't think so.
No, he wasn't playing.
No, so if Roy doesn't play, not sure. If Roy doesn't play, Trevor Bolt sort of has to do a lot of the organising. Trevor Bolt's better when he can just play off the cuff and run and do his own thing. So if you've got to make him to a playmaker, he's kind of it takes away all that natural instinct and that stuff where he can just win a game off his own bat. And with Brett there, I don't really know what position Brett was playing. He was kind of in the first receiver, floating around a bit. If they can nail him down, probably. But they've had a pretty good fullback this year. But if they can nail him and get him more ball, then that'll cause some trouble for Brothers. But yeah, Northern in a final, they will be tough. I don't think it'll be an easy game. I don't think there'll be much in it. So, but I'll go Brothers.
Yeah, and I think if Roy Bell's playing and just have that leadership as well, then we could be in for a closer game than what we think. But if he's not playing, then
I think so.
Yeah. Sorry, and Crossy, last one's you.
Yeah, mate, I agree with Scoop. I thought he hit the nail on the head on all areas there. The only thing I will say is, yeah, if Roy Bell turns up to play, and if Brett Kelly's playing, this is a tricky one for Brothers. They could get nervous. It's a bit of an awkward game. If the game's close with not long to go, and you look across and Brett Kelly's there in a mood, then that could be dangerous for Brothers. But I don't know what sort of nick Bretty Kelly's in if he's been sort of playing. He's always fit anyway. But yeah. I'll tip Brothers, of course. But if I hear Sunday night that Northern have won, I wouldn't be surprised either.
Yeah, and I reckon if Morris Brothers are going to win this game, they're going to win in the first half. That's what they.
Yeah,
I think
good point, Nev.
Yeah, if Northern make it a bit of a contest like they did in the first half, they're in with a shot. But that sort of happened too when they last played. Again, you and I did that one, Shorey, that it was sort of close and Morris ran on with it. I think this time around, if Morris wins it, they win it. Like, they got to be in front by about, say, 10 or more points in the first half just to keep that buffer, because Northern, because as I said, like, one thing that Northern doesn't like, they don't like being behind the 8 ball when off a back of a couple of tries. And if that happens, then obviously, game over. But if Northern can just stick in there, as you said, we could be in for a close game. And as I said, this Southern competition has legs, and which is compared to, say, 2 or 3 weeks ago when we thought just a Ballina taking on whoever and, hope for the best. I reckon there's a bit more to it. A couple of fairy tales left in it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what happens. Okay, so anyway, so that's the breakdown of this weekend. Still more football to come, and of course, the big grand final on Saturday. As I said, don't miss it on Mark Goff Media. Crossy, no doubt I'm going to be on the call with you on Saturday, but you and me for an all press coffee. You're making your return to Byron now that you're allowed back down.
I'm heading to the Bay tomorrow, mate, nice and early, and looking forward to it. And I might see you clowns mid-morning.
Okay, just text me before text me after 9 o'clock. Because in case this doesn't exactly wake me up when it should. But yeah,
hey, just much going on a work day.
Hey, just on a serious note before I go, I just got a message from Phil Ramage post our chat there, and he just said he spent sort of 3 good years up at the Whit Sundays there, and they won a couple of comps up there, and there's a heap of, I suppose, Phil Ramage supporters are going to be tuning in. So we know the live stream will be getting a lot of hits anyway on Saturday, but you can throw in the whole North Queensland, Nev. There's a big contingent tuning in there, mate.
Bring it on. We're looking forward
How
to
good.
it. Yeah. And Scoop.
We'll sign up at the Whit Sundays, a bit of live stream, eh?
Yeah.
Put it on the pub up there.
That's what it is. That's what we use it for too, boys. Is as I said, like get it, fill in all the pubs and stuff, because that's what we make the most of the technology today. And that's one thing, like with this whole COVID and post-COVID, I guess you can say now that we're make the most of the technology. And whilst I always knew that this would be the case, whilst we're doing it pre-COVID, we saw it with the rugby, Scoop, like with all the pubs. Like let's pack the pubs that we're up to capacity, social distance, of course. Make the noise that way, because it's
100%.
It brings everyone together, especially if you're watching from Melbourne and aren't allowed out at the moment. But Scoop, Shorey, I think you boys are hitting it up on Sunday out of Ballina Casino. So have fun out there, and as I said, be sure to tune in on Saturday for the big grand final in the Tweed comp between the Raiders and Mustangs. Looking forward to bringing it there. Start off with the ladies and work all the way up to about 4:30 under that twilight Tweed sun. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you on Saturday at Cabba for the grand final. Have a good evening.
Yeah.